Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DojoLIVE, connecting tech experts like you. Today, I'm going to introduce you to my co hosts. We have Carlos Ponce, live in Mexico City. Say
Hey,
hi.
hello. Hi, everyone.
And we also have Tulio Siragusa, who is live in LA, right, Tulio?
Yes, good afternoon. Rainy Los Angeles.
And my name is Priscilla Solis. I'm hosting live from the city of Chihuahua. And today we have a very special guest. We have Ravi and Raj. He is the CEO and co founder of Passage.ai. In this role, he leads a team of AI and deep learning engineers that have created the industry leading AI platform that businesses can use to create a conversational interface for their websites. So, hi, Ravi. Please, before we get into the topic, would you like to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Passage AI?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, thanks for having me on the show. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Passage AI. As you described, we're a conversational AI company. Uh, Customers use our platform to build chatbots or conversational interfaces that can be deployed on their website, mobile apps, messaging platforms like Facebook Messenger and WeChat, or on voice devices like Amazon Alexa, Google Home, and so on. My background prior to Passage AI, I was VP of product at Walmart, and I came to Walmart through the acquisition of a company called Cosmix, and I was the VP and GM at Cosmix, and we were acquired by Walmart in 2011, and I worked at Walmart for 3.5 years. Prior to Walmart and Cosmix, I was at Yahoo in search and marketplace. For about a year, actually, I was running product for Yahoo Travel back in the day. So that's my background in travel. Aside from being a big travel enthusiast, I joke that between my vacations, I'm planning the next vacation. So yeah. So I'm really passionate about travel.
That's great. Very nice to meet you, Ravi.
Yeah, same
So,
here.
today's topic, the topic that you chose, is AI powered customer experiences. Can you talk a little bit about this topic and why you chose it?
Yes, as you know, AI is changing the world. From self-driving cars to drones that deliver packages, to even things like recommendation systems, things like cure for diseases and drug discovery. Like AI is really changing everything we do, everything we know about. So that is really something that's transforming the world. Specifically in the area of travel and hospitality, we're seeing a number of applications of AI that is going to change and improve the experience of travelers worldwide. Uh, it started with recommendation systems that was pioneered by companies like Amazon and Netflix. Also in travel, right? You go to a hotel page, and it has on the right rail typically other similar hotels, right? That's all powered by machine learning, which is AI in some form. So in that sense, AI has been around for a while, but now you have much more practical applications, much more real world applications in addition to the recommendation systems I mentioned. And we're seeing fairly strong demand, not just for our platform, but for AI in general.
Great. I have. I don't know what that is in the background. There's some bot chiming in.
I wonder what that is.
Sounds like a Christmas choo-choo train.
Yeah.
The Orient Express is coming. Okay, so I'm very curious about what gave birth to this idea, right? I mean, you're one of the co-founders. Like, you guys were sitting around and like, man, we need this. What gave birth to this idea? How did this come about?
So actually, all three of us co-founders, myself, my co-founders Madhu Matihali and Mithul Tiwari, we all used to work at Cosmix. So we've known each other for a number of years. We still talk to each other, which is a good thing. So, we have a lot of respect and, admiration for each other's talents. I bring product and business. My co-founder Mitul brings, AI and machine learning, and my other co-founder Madhu brings also machine learning and, full stack engineering to the table. So we had what we felt were all three components you needed to run a tech company. So this was back in 2016. So the same year, coincidentally, a number of messaging platforms started opening up. So you could create the equivalent of apps for these platforms. Facebook Messenger opened up in April 2016. Skype opened up, Telegram opened up, WeChat has been around for quite a number of years. They were the ones who pioneered chatbots. And so messaging platforms opened up. The same year, we felt that AI had come of age. AI, as I mentioned, has been around for a long time. A lot of it has been sort of in the academic world, and sort of in science fiction world, right? Movies, with the robots and artificial intelligence, but we didn't see a robot come home and do your dishes, right? So there were no real practical applications of AI. But we felt in 2016, applications, as I mentioned, self-driving cars, drones that deliver packages, and all that, they were starting to become not just science fiction, but a reality. So that was the second trend that happened. The third was, the prior year, Amazon launched a product called Amazon Echo, and that was, if I'm not mistaken, the best-selling gadget, in 2015. It was flying off the shelves, and soon after, Microsoft launched Cortana. Google had Google Assistant, and so on. Right. So all these devices in your home, call it IoT, call it smart devices. They all had voice capabilities. They could understand what you said. They could respond back to questions like, what's the weather like today? What's the stock price of this particular company? Things like that, right? So, and at that time, it was a little bit of a novelty when you had, talking to your speaker, but now it's become pretty mainstream, right? Samsung, for example, has put Bixby, which is their voice AI assistant. It's in pretty much every gadget, every device in your home. So you could literally be talking to your washing machine or your range, right? It's actually now a reality and do some really useful things. You could turn off the stove by just talking to it very soon. So that was the third kind of trend that happened. Voice being everywhere. Certainly, cars. Voice is the future. Seven of the largest automakers in the world, they're our customers. They're looking at many different applications to bring inside the car. The most obvious thing being that if you're driving, you shouldn't be texting. You shouldn't be, using your phone. A much more intuitive, safer, and legal mechanism is voice. So if you could just talk to your car and say, where's the nearest Walmart, for example, and the car could tell you, turn by turn, it could give you directions to the nearby Walmart. So those three things coming together again, AI being mainstream and having real world applications, messaging platforms opening up, and there being over 3 billion users using messaging platforms, and then these voice assistants and devices and smart speakers, in your living room and in your home, now being able to understand natural language.
Okay, so it's pretty cool actually when you think about it. There's been some recent studies where everybody's sort of living online and no one's talking to each other. So at least you can talk to the machines in your home. No, all
Mhm.
joking aside, there's a lot of players, right? I mean, Forrester's call these big waves or the top 10 AI waves. One of them is decision engine and also bot. What differentiates Passage AI? What's unique about you that will stand out? Why should customers care about what you're doing?
That's a great question. So we're in the conversational AI space where natural language understanding and processing is really important, and it all starts with accuracy. We have what we consider is the leading accuracy in the industry in terms of understanding natural language and responding in a relevant manner. So our bots, once they're fully trained, they perform at 95% or higher accuracy. Again, that's the leading metric, in our space. The second thing is that we understand over 100 languages. We've built language models for all major languages. As the world is flat. Every company, has a global presence. In fact, many of the companies we talk to here in the US are really interested in launching, worldwide, in languages like Mandarin Chinese, Japanese, German, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese. So all these variations and different languages, they want to be able to launch their bot, right? That is a huge differentiator for us. That is something we emphasize with our customers. We prove with our accuracy in these languages. So that is something, to our knowledge, very few companies do in terms of understanding natural language in multiple languages. The third is we offer all three things you need to build a chatbot in one platform: bot building, bot training, bot deployment. So you build the bot in our console in a UI driven manner. There's no coding required. It's all drag and drop and UI driven. You build it, then you can train it using our console. You can upload training data like your chat logs, your customer service logs. You can upload them and you can train the models, and you can actually see the accuracy. We report the accuracy in our console. So as you provide more and more training data, you can start to see the accuracy start to improve and get to the level I mentioned. The third is, once it's built and trained, we can deploy it in over 25 platforms, all the ones I mentioned: messaging platforms, voice assistants, and also your website. It's a few lines of JavaScript you add to your website, and you can turn your website into a conversational interface. So those are the main differentiators in terms of, again, the accuracy, multi-language, native support, and simplicity of building a bot, like a one-stop solution for building it with bot building, bot training, and bot deployment.
That's amazing. So I don't have to be a developer to essentially deploy one of your bots. And when you're uploading the data, is it using lingua franca in terms of how you train them, or or is it do I have to again code that?
No, not at all. Actually, that is a huge differentiator for us. As you correctly pointed out, you do not have to be a developer to build, train, and launch a bot. It's all UI driven. When we work with a customer, let's say a travel site, we tend to form a partnership with them. It's not a customer vendor relationship. It's more of a partnership. They bring their knowledge of their business and their industry. We bring our expertise in AI and machine learning. So together we form a partnership, and they understand their domain. They use our console, our capabilities to build it, and they don't have to write a single line of code.
Right. Speaking of travel industry, as a company here in Nearsoft, interestingly enough, half of our business is all travel tech related. In the
Mhm.
past 12 years, we just amassed a bunch of travel tech companies. It just kind of happened with clients taking us with them wherever they move. So, how does this apply for example, for an OTA? How does this add value? Can you give us some examples of where that's worked really well and some key metrics that you've been able to improve by them deploying this?
Yeah, absolutely. For OTA specifically, it makes it much more frictionless if you have a conversational interface, right? Especially one that's personalized. If you take the example of a business traveler, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time on planning a visit, right? It's more functional. They have to get to a certain place. They have to stay in a certain, hotel, and maybe they need to rent a car or whatever it might be, right? For them, it's much more frictionless if they were sitting in their living rooms and talking to Alexa and telling Alexa, I need to fly to Seattle tomorrow, come back on Friday, and I want to rent a car and I want to stay in downtown. Then Alexa could give you some recommendations. Here are some flights that leave in the morning, and maybe the system knows that you prefer JetBlue, so because you have frequent flyer miles on JetBlue. So the bot can respond back saying, JetBlue has these flights tomorrow. One leaving at 8 a.m., other one leaving at 10 a.m. And then you say, okay, book me the flight that leaves at 8 a.m. And then, okay, return flights. You get some options. You pick one. And then likewise with hotels, and then renting a car. It's just much more frictionless. You might have been watching TV the whole time, and you've booked your business travel, right? And it's not just business travel; it's even consumers. Consumers, don't obviously take as many vacations and trips as business travelers do, so they tend to planning a trip. So they might be more interested in deals and offers. A messaging platform is a great way to get deals and offers, especially again one that's personalized for you. So you could tell your bot, I want to travel to Cancun during this spring break. I'm going to go with my wife and two kids. They are uh, 16 and 18, for example. And can you recommend the right deals and places to stay? And and then the bot could be giving you deals and offers and suggestions. Here are some really good places to stay, some really good activities for your kids to do, and then you could be having a conversation with a bot. You don't have to book it right then. And then later, when you find the right deal, the right activity, you can say, "That's a great activity. Why don't you book that?" And even if you're not comfortable with using a bot to book it, you found the deal, or you found the place you want to stay, and you could go online and book that deal or hotel. So even for consumer travelers, it's much more frictionless, intuitive, and easy to use when they interact with a bot to plan their trips. So
Sure.
OTAs, yeah, definitely, we're starting to see real good traction with OTAs in terms of embracing conversational interfaces and bringing it to their customers.
Great. I have one more question, but before we do that, I think we need to open this up to the audience. Carlos, or you want to let the
Yeah,
audience know how they can participate?
absolutely. Yeah, actually, there's let me tell you something. We have had a good number of AI related interviews, and we have an increasing number of AI enthusiasts internally at Microsoft. And one of them is actually he's a newcomer to the company, Ruben Araiza. He's the front end guy for especially for DojoLIVE. Now, Ruben is asking me this question on Slack. This question is for you, for of course for our guest, for you, Ravi. And he's asking this: why should software companies prepare for human level AI technology now rather than decades down the line when it's closer? I think that's an interesting question.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Yes, AI is not at the level of humans. AI clearly does not have intuition. Someday it might. Humans have intuition. Humans have creativity. Humans have emotions, things like that, right? AI right now can do a lot of things that can be automated, things that are repetitive in nature. Driving a car, for example, that lends itself to being automated using AI. Because there's a clear sort of methodology to it. So the reason why companies should plan for AI now is because already AI is powering a number of functions. So they should leverage AI to automate functions, lower costs, improve productivity, and make humans more creative because the time is freed up from repetitive tasks. In terms of why they should plan now for AI being as good as humans, firstly, I don't know if AI will ever be as good as humans. Some of the skills I mentioned, like intuition and creativity, I don't know if AI will get you there. But if you plan now, if it happens sooner than later, let's say it happens, 2 years from now, given how fast technology is advancing, given how quickly techniques are emerging for deep learning and AI, it could well happen sooner than 2 3 years. Not everything that a human does, but a lot of the things could be automated, again, to improve humans and their lives. This is not to replace humans. It is just like the Industrial Revolution. It made the world a better place by automating things that factory workers were doing manually, right? It ended up making their lives much better. So likewise, this is kind of the next industrial revolution, if you will, the AI revolution. It's going to free up the time of live agents, humans, employees, so they can add a lot more value to their enterprises and to themselves.
And now that you mentioned this, are there humans behind the scenes with your platform for the lower accuracy areas?
So one thing we do in our platform is when the bot does not understand what the user is saying, the bot seamlessly hands off to a live agent. And we've done integrations with a number of live agent platforms, Salesforce Live Agent, Oracle, Live Person, Zendesk, and so on, right? So when the bot does not understand, it hands off to a live agent. Or the customer can say, let me talk to a live agent. If they're not comfortable talking to a bot, we make it easy for them to just talk to a live agent. If they want to, be on hold for 15 minutes or 10 hours to talk to a live agent when they become available, we completely want them to have the choice. So those are ways the bot, interacts and, works with humans or live agents to provide the right service, the best customer experience for end users.
Okay, so I have to ask this question because it's to me it's interesting. A lot of these chatbots, which is ultimately about enhancing the customer experience, right?
Yeah.
Would you consider that this could also be the next evolution in the user experience, right? Let's go back 20 years, right? You used to call an 800 number to make a reservation, talk to someone. We didn't have online, we didn't have apps. It was a very personable one-on-one kind of thing. And good or bad, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. That's how it worked. Then we moved to self-service, right? We figured out how to make everyone employees of the company by providing online capabilities where the service is always consistent because you're providing it to yourself. And now we're introducing the concept of the hybrid, right? Which is basically a semi-human kind of interface where it's voice. So it's going back to what we were doing, but there's the user experience and the benefit of still being a self-service experience online. Is it ultimately, I mean, is the user interface ultimately just going to disappear and be replaced by voice? Is that possibility? Is that what's going to happen? And what is your thought on that as a company?
Yeah. So someone told me that voice is the most intuitive and frictionless interaction paradigm. So exactly like you said, before the internet, you had to go to a travel agent, and then maybe several times, tell the agent where you plan to go, what you, plan to do, things like that, and you get recommendations, and then you make a decision, book your flights and so on. Then the internet came along. You didn't have to go to an agent. You could go to multiple sites, check out different options, make your booking, get your boarding pass on, by email, which you could print. So much more frictionless. Then, mobile came along, which made it even more frictionless. You could be at the dentist, suddenly planning your next vacation. or your business travel, just right there on your phone, which is always with you. Again, the reduction in friction. You don't have to go find a desktop or a laptop and plan your trip. Now, you have voice assistants everywhere. As I mentioned, literally, we're not there yet. You could be talking to your washing machine and planning your trip while you're doing while you're washing your clothes, right? So it just much more, like reduced friction, much more intuitive. As I mentioned, voice is the most intuitive, easy to use interaction model. On a website, you have to find where a particular feature is. Let's say, you want to book 3 rooms in a hotel. You go enter dates, and then find the hotel, and then see if it's the right price and so on, right? Much more intuitive to say, I want to stay at the Win hotel in Vegas from Friday through Monday, and watch that show, right? So just much more intuitive because that's how human beings converse. But now there's technology behind it that allows that interaction model, which is voice or chat, to be able to, to use that to service your needs.
Amazing. So we're almost coming up on time. It always happens like that when it gets really interesting. I'd like to shift gear a little bit and talk a little bit about sort of your culture as a company. Uh,
Tulio?
yeah,
Sorry,
we have a
sorry,
question.
sorry. Yeah, we have another question actually.
Perfect.
And actually, it seems like we're getting our guys enthused about the whole AI thing, I guess. And okay, so here's the question, and okay, and the question is coming from another Ruben who happens to be the first Ruben's son. We got the two Rubens working at the company. So how odd is that? Okay, well, the younger Ruben, Ruben Araiza, he's asking, what is the best way to get data ripe for AI interpretation to best optimize the travel experience?
So in terms of getting the best data to train the models, it's really important for the data to be accurate, to be of high quality. Because the data is not accurate, you're going to get bad algorithms, bad AI, bad recommendations. So it's really important to spend that extra effort to make sure the data you use to train the machine learning models, the AI models, are of high quality. They are labeled and accurate, and then you use that to train the models. So I would invest the time a lot. If it's our space, which is conversational, do you have prior logs of customers calling in and getting responses? Do you have prior logs of people searching for things and finding what they wanted? You can use all that to train the conversational AI models and create the best chatbot experience.
Speaking of that, Ravi, are you using like existing stacks, like the Berkeley stack, or you've created your own algorithm stack for this platform?
So there are all these frameworks that have been open sourced. Google TensorFlow is one. Stanford NLP is another. So these things have tremendous momentum behind them. As I mentioned, they're open source, so a lot of machine learning engineers from across the world, they've taken these frameworks and they've enhanced them, they've pre-trained them, and things of that nature, right, for different use cases. So rebuilding those frameworks would not make sense, especially for a startup. So we use things like Google TensorFlow. The value is in building models using those frameworks, and more importantly, to train those models with public data and customers' own data and creating the right experience. So we go really deep into use cases. We try to understand the customer's pain point, and we provide a solution that's driven by AI using the models we've built on top of these AI frameworks.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. We actually had the chief evangelist of Google as a guest back in the spring, and in an offline conversation discovered Google has like an island an island in Singapore, a bunch of AI researchers. So it's pretty amazing the investment they're making in that space. So I'm not surprised you're using that. We're pretty much up on time. I have a question about your culture, right? Because I would have to assume this kind of technology requires tremendous curiosity, right? So tell us a little bit, what are some of the guiding principles you have as a company? How are you attracting those kinds of people that are adding value? Share with us a little bit of that if you could.
So if there's one thing about the culture I'd like to emphasize is that the customer is always right. So we have to, at the end of the day, make our customers happy and satisfied and delighted. So that is, if there's one thing again I could point out, is how we want to build and grow this company. If the customer is satisfied, generally good things happen. If you're a consumer company, you make your consumers happy by building really great products that solve their problems. If you're an enterprise software company like us, you make your enterprise customers happy by making their end customers happy. So that is probably the main point of view for us from a culture standpoint.
You can never go wrong by being customer centric. I appreciate the time you've given us. Do I have time for one final question, Carlos? Chris,
I
I know
think,
we're running out of time.
yeah, I mean, I guess we can stretch a little bit. So yeah, go right ahead.
So one question we always ask our guests towards the end, especially co-founders and founders. I mean, what's this journey been like for you? Any words of wisdom, and anyone who's sitting on the fence working for a big company like Walmart or others, thinking like, man, I got an idea. Any words of wisdom you want to share with them on what they should do?
I think it is, persistence is really important. I mean, if you have an idea, it shouldn't be driven by what technology can do, but what problem you're trying to solve for the customer, and how can you solve it using technology. So that is one thing that I myself have learned the hard way, not to be technology driven, but by being driven by solving real world problems, solving the pain points of your customers. So if there's one thing, I'd like to say in terms of, running a successful company, going back to the point of view of being customer centric, is are you solving right problems in the right manner, using the right technology?
Great words of advice. Chris, back to you.
Well, thank you, Ravi, for your time. We really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for introducing us to Passage.ai and its culture as well. Thank you, everyone, as well, for tuning in. And we'll see you on another episode of DojoLIVE, connecting tech experts like you.
Actually, we have a double whammy next week. We have on Monday we have one, and on Wednesday we have another one. We still don't have the topics yet, but the only thing we know is that we're going to be speaking with Matthew Bellows, the founder of Yesware, and KP Naidu, Senior Vice President of Engineering and CTO at Amava. He's a former Sun Microsystems engineer, so that should be interesting as well. Again, when we have the topics, they'll be up there on the website and DojoLIVE website, which is dojo.nearsoft.com. And thank you for allowing me to do this little announcement for next week. And that's all I have, Chris. So thank you, Tulio. Thank you, Priscilla, and of course our guest. Thank you, Ravi, for being with us here today on DojoLIVE. Thank you, everyone, and see you next time.